Why should spirituality affect happiness? So here's a quick and simple answer. So you got two kinds of spirituality that people used to, one in religion and one from what people called what was it word? Not organized religion? Disorganized religion? Disorganized? I can't remember what the word is, but it's quite good. I quite like to have the wrong words because there's like, oh, they don't like organized religion, which is quite funny actually if you think about it. They prefer disorganized something when they say no, I just like to be in control of my own, you know, direction in life, which is fine. We'll talk about that in a second. But religion. So I'm going to talk about the two kinds of spirituality and the benefits, okay, of those two kinds. Religion just teaches kindness. Okay, when I say religion, I'm talking about the original teachings of religions, because there's a lot of corruption and things in religion over time. You know, these religions have been around for thousands of years sometimes, and some of them don't quite, aren't quite as pristine as they, you know, as they were right in the beginning. But anyway, religion, original teachings of religion is just kindness. So if you think about Christianity and Islam and Judaism, they all talk about things like being kind to your neighbors, right? It's really important in those religions. Non-religious, so and as I say, when you do are kind, you find happiness. And this has been shown so many times in so many social experiments. Like, for example, there's a great TED talk about how you can buy happiness. And it says if you buy stuff for other people, you're happier. And it shouldn't actually be surprising because, like, the experiment they had it, for example, one of the experiments they did was buying coffee. Now, there's only so much coffee you need, and it's not like you've never had coffee before. I'm sure if you're watching, you probably had lots of coffee before, unless you're really small or something, like young or something. But so having more coffee or buying more coffee for yourself is not going to make you desperately happy. But especially in Western societies where people are not connected, doing something weird like buying coffee for a stranger, that's a novel experience. And that's and you might know this already, but connection is incredibly important to human beings for the happiness. One of the key things you need. When I say connection, that means relationships. And the idea of connection is not just talking at each other. It's like getting to know each other, knowing each other, being aware of each other. That's the idea behind this word of connection. Okay, so you can really have an amazing connection by doing something for a total stranger, and they'll be like so impressed, and you have a little conversation, why are you doing it, and all this kind of stuff, right? So you get that connection, and that's desperately missing in Western societies, so much so that the biggest killer, can you believe it, in Western societies is loneliness. I think it is, or pretty much one of the biggest killers. So you might say, how can loneliness possibly kill you? Well, loneliness causes all sorts of things like isolation, where you feel like you're by yourself, and then you've got nobody to talk to when you're in a stressful situation, and so stress becomes worse. So there's a lot of reasons why loneliness is the biggest killer. It has a lot of side effects. It's not directly, yeah, that loneliness kills you, but loneliness makes you feel alone and you're by yourself in the world. And for human beings, that's a massive big deal. You're right. Just feeling alone is a terrible, terrible feeling. So yeah, being kind leads to happiness. And now, moving on to non-religious spirituality, it only gives short-term happiness. And see, people might be going, "No, I've done meditation and it makes me feel really good and whatever." Meditation just makes you relax for a little bit, stops, and relatively compared to not meditating, yes, it can have a massive effect. Okay, if you give yourself a break, okay, and think about the universe you're in and feel a bit grateful, yes, that's going to have some effect. But most of non-religious spirituality is based is it teaches things that are popular for what is already a sick society, I would describe. And when I say sick, it's sick in the sense that it's focused on the individual. And if you're focused on the individual rather than society, then you're bound to be miserable, because as I just said, what makes us happy is being connected. So if you're focused on yourself and sort of as a result ignoring other people, you're going to be miserable, right? And so that's what these new age kind of spirituality businesses really are based on. They're just telling you things that you already like. And if you're already doing the wrong things and it's telling you more of it, it's not particularly going to make you happy. Now, obviously, they're going to tell you something that makes you a little bit happier than you are. But I look at, like, most Buddhists I know, these Western Buddhists, they tend not to be happy at all. They seem to still have loads of problems, because I'll give you an example. All these new age spiritual teachings, they focus on you and not being of service to other people. I've hardly ever seen, say, a Buddhist quote where they'll say serve other people, be nice to other people. In fact, all the Buddhist quotes, and this is another interesting thing, you hardly ever see a quote, a Buddhist, so-called Buddhist quote, on Facebook and all these other social media, okay, that actually from Buddha. Now, I believe in Buddha. I consider him a prophet, right? Okay, so if you follow his teachings, you do well for yourself. But you hardly ever see teachings from him, or even the Dalai Lama. Dalai Lama is like famous for saying, "I don't know," which is not particularly helpful. Apparently, it's supposed to be cool by not knowing stuff. But anyway, and he'll make fart sounds and stuff like that. I'm sure there's good things about him as well, right? I do like that he's got very simple clothes. That's a really cool thing, because he's not focusing in that sense on the material, and that helps you by itself. But um, a lot of it is like living in the now and ignore people if they're toxic, and that kind of thing. But if you the problem with ignoring people because that person is toxic is not realizing that you are faulty as well. And what you should do is realize why all these other people are so-called toxic and try to work with them. Because if you see everybody as toxic, then you'll be left by yourself. And that's what's this kind of new age spiritual philosophy is leading to: more and more loneliness, more and more misery, actually. So I wouldn't recommend new age spirituality most of the time, because it's just pandering to the problems of you know modern selfish societies, individualistic societies. So it's about kindness to yourself rather than to others. And kindness to others is incredibly important if you want to get out of your tiny shell that's making you miserable. People live in a tiny, tiny, increasingly tiny worlds of, watching Netflix and things like that, and they're left alone. Not a good idea. Um, so spirituality, listen to religion, and it's always giving you simple solutions like be nice to other people.